So let's take a look then and see again whether I'm going off the rails with this and being all, maybe I'm just a snowflake. Let's find out. I'm looking at this and I'm into this interesting area where we see a statement, bestiary and herbal. We have the category common animals, and then we have the category which is fairly extensive. I mean, I counted a while back. There's at least a dozen of civilized non-primes. And it just goes straight into it without a big description of like what that means, but we've learned what it means, right? Subsidiary, not the focus of the god's interest in the world, not created not created by the gods for any reason. So we've got all some. It's not going to surprise you. Frankly, these look way more fun to play than the primes. I mean, I could be an otter person. Oh, good. No, I can be a fox-headed bird. I can be a large but ordinary dog with four-jointed arms added. Each hand is provided with a tiny eye on a short stalk next to the thumb and a slightly longer tendril that can taste like a tongue. Whoa, really? Get this. Blee are as intelligent and social as Rasamel and as likely to be civilized. Rasamel are the either the raccoon or the otter people. Primes. Should I read that again? Blee are as intelligent and social as Rasamel and as likely to be civilized. It mentions that there are places where Blee and primes coexist happily, even though primes usually regard them with suspicion and mistrust. Well, this is really kind of interesting. So what's wrong with a Blee? I don't know. There's a bunch, right? It talks about Scaun, perhaps the most annoying of the non-prime species, small, fairly stupid, haphazardly devious, utterly unconcerned with their own safety or anyone else's. A rat or mouse person, about 4 feet tall, chubby, long pointed muzzles, etc. And they're basically, crappy, superstitious, stupid, barbarian hordes. And carries on from there. They think that they might be reincarnated if they kill a Sleeth or are killed by a Sleeth, which is the cat people. So you kind of have a reason for them to run around attacking player characters. Okay, well, here's my favorite. There's a bunch. Maybe not physically favorite. Physically, I gotta say the Blee were, it's like, dude, I want to play the dog with the arms and stuff. But, okay, then we look at the Taptet. Last one, I promise. Small people, 3 or 4 feet tall, with features resembling deer, tiny antlers, small hooves, short dappled brown fur. They are not a powerful people with little physical or magical force at their disposal. Given their choice, they live in small villages in the middle of civilized lands, protected by the civilization but not bothered by it. They are rarely given the choice. They usually are subservient to other species, working on prime spice plantations or siar farms, protected to be sure, but paying for it with constant labor. Now, this is that same kind of thing. You read this and you're like, okay, this is a little bit subversive. It's showing us what it looks like or how it's talked about in the setting. But between you and me reading this, we get that these guys are kind of screwed and, might have some humanity to examine and play. And why can't I play one for that purpose? There's some stuff about playing non-primes, but it is loaded with all of the things you don't get that you do with the regular player character rules. So keep that in mind. A few Taptet have the special ability, half a species-specific skill, half secret knowledge to make strong, perilous potions. They can brew vicious potions, with a whole bunch of things. Okay, just they're dangerous. They're more dangerous than magic. They're very powerful. Oh, never mind the rules. They're there. Now, what else does it say? Last one. This is all we get about the Taptet. Nothing else. Here's your final paragraph. Taptet, especially when they are badly oppressed, are not always sensible. They hold secret rebellions, poisoning their masters, making alliances with anyone who might help them, trading or drinking their potions, and using cleverness and subtlety to make up for their lack of force. I call your attention to the opening phrase that when they are badly oppressed, not if they believe they're badly oppressed or get confused and say they're badly oppressed, but when they are not always sensible. Now, to this reader, the next few lines that I just read after that are perfectly sensible things to do under those circumstances, and I have no idea who these people are who wrote this, except their names are Bard Bloom and Victoria Bora Bloom. As again, these are examples throughout. I mean, I could even go on to the part where they're uncivilized monsters, but many of whom are thinking beings who are treated in even more outrageous terms. This thing is a racist tract. The diversity of the primes is this huge Poe at best, and it just I'm appalled. I was appalled when I read it, and I'm appalled now. You're reading it and you're going, this. I mean, never mind goblins and orcs in D&D. This is supremacist, like horror. Okay, to turn it around then, we have a game published. That was from 2000. This one's from a little bit before that. This is from the mid-90s. I've talked about it before. It's one of my sort of star turn fantasy heartbreakers, Halmor Brea, right? And Halmor Brea is interesting. I've talked about it before in this regard because it presumes a very straightforward gaming fantasy world and then dials it back millennia before the races we know, goblins, kobolds, orcs, trolls, etc. Before that, before they became the way we know them. And as it turns out, they're all very, very people-ish. So there's kind of the implication that something bad happened and they all kind of went gnarled and twisted and weird and degenerated or something. So that they ended up, the way they end up in, say, a D&D rulebook or something like it. But the whole point is, you get to play a two-headed troll who's actually kind of a good dude and is treated as a person by the culture. And it's kind of interesting because they do have different technological levels, different sort of standards for things. There are wild trolls who are, who do eat people and stuff. But some are just a full subversion. The orcs are, basically big, handsome, cheerful, charismatic, seafaring people. And the illustration, just looks like a Nordic human. I mean, you're kind of like, so that was an orc. There's a big implication here. You kind of dial your mind, fast forward to the orcs we know from standard fantasy role-playing culture, and you instantly think, oh man, how'd that happen? But the book doesn't deal with that. The book says, we're just going back there, and it's real big on how adventuring is much more about friendship. Adventuring is much more about creativity. There's a certain amount of danger and diversity in there, but it really says this is a different kind of role-playing game. We're going to, you're going to play a character, you're playing a goblin character, and you're a fine maker of ivory ornaments, and you're a fine artisan, and you're widely respected and stuff like that. Interestingly enough, the halflings are fairly untrustworthy, savage little barbarian types who, have a little harder time getting along. So you see they're kind of flipping things around. It's on purpose. There are, if I remember correctly, yes, they do include humans, which WorldTree does not. And it's interesting. The category of man includes goblin, halfling, human, and kobolds and orc. So those are all like human is a very minor designation within man. So anyway, the point though is that none of them, I mean, the human men are not the most widespread. They don't have a special spiritual background. They don't have a special latecomer background or anything like that. They're just in the mix with everybody else. And they have their own, quirks or whatever, just like all the other ones do. So Halmor Brea seems to be much more honestly oriented toward what the WorldTree is sort of implying, wrong and deceptively. Here, you are really trying to subvert what is arguably a racist breakdown in standard fantasy role playing. And so there is, however, one weird exception. And to me, this is like a strange as sticking out sore thumb, how on earth could you do this exception? And that is the playable character race of the kobolds. Kobolds are an unpleasant aspect of life in Halmabrea. They blindly stumble through life, not sure of anything, but hoping to be accepted as one of the intellectually elite. And the picture shows a sort of cavalier dressed, the implication being that he's jumped up, he's got above himself, he's posturing. Dude. Though slightly larger than halflings, kobolds are much weaker than most of the races. Combined with an amazing lack of intelligence, this handicap looms close to unbelievable. Fortunately, kobolds have learned to survive by becoming extremely adept with all weapons, and they have an incredible amount of luck. For it has been rumored that kobolds are almost supernaturally lucky. It is unwise to anger an armed kobold, although a quick-witted adventurer can usually talk him out of anything drastic. This is interesting. I mean, it's a lot more minor. I mean, it doesn't say like the gods don't care about the kobolds the way they care about you, but still, it's compared to what in all the others, even for some of the slightly more savage ones, really a positive, empathic, you can play this. This is a person. You're going to be good. You're going to check this out. We're going to see how you and your friends have, friend adventures together. All of a sudden you're like, hey, these guys, is it for comedy? Is it kind of fun to have sort of the butthead race to play but there's no other language in the book that's like any better. There's nothing in there about the positive aspects that can be brought to play by choosing one of these. It's just sticking there like a sore thumb of this distinctly mechanically, I mean, the luck is one thing. I mean, there are luck rules in here, but this distinctly not, admirable or not, I mean, it's just the definition handicapped, as they say, group.